Hello and welcome to the Thought Leader Activation Summit. I'm Stephanie Michelle, leadership and life coach and author of Confident Introvert, and also your host for this series. This is your ticket to learning how to start your coaching business, get on those stages, and write your book. I'm excited to introduce our last speaker who will share the ins and outs of writing and monetizing your first book, Kurt Black. Okay, so a little bit about Kurt Black. He is the president of Glenwood Digital, an agency that helps businesses with customer acquisition and retention. Glenwood utilizes cutting-edge marketing automation and learning management, LMS tools to help clients maximize the lifetime value of their customers. Kurt is also the author of Book More Business, where he teaches consultants and entrepreneurs how to quickly create a short book to build an automated marketing funnel to generate a ready and steady system of leads and successfully convert them into new clients. Okay, so hello, Kurt. I'm so excited to talk with you about not only writing a book, but making it actually work for your business.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, okay, so we'll just kind of kick things off here. We are all interested in thought leadership. You are a thought leader. How do you define a thought leader?
Yeah, a thought leader, I guess thought leader to me is someone that's got authority and an audience. So they've built that authority in a lot of different ways, but that's why I love books personally, because I think books really add credibility and can really position you as a thought leader, because it really helps put your ideas, your frameworks, your thoughts on a particular topic out in the world in a very authoritative way, I guess.
Right. It's one of those goals that many people have as an item. Someday I'd like to write a book, but you make it so easy and accessible to create it quickly and to have that ROI. So that is so valuable. And,
Yes.
I'd like to know, how has writing a book established yourself as a thought leader?
Yeah. So for me personally, I've written a couple, but after I wrote one called Book More Business, which is really my book around how to write a book to grow your business. It's kind of like, I don't know if you ever saw the Seinfeld where he wrote a coffee table book about coffee tables.
Mm-hmm.
Mine's a book about writing books. But, so I then used it to go out and speak, and it became a really good tool to actually get speaking engagements. And so that's how I use it and help my clients use the book, is to either go out and speak at live events or speak on, virtual summits or speak on podcasts. And they kind of use that as the front end to their funnel.
Oh, I love that. And we'll also, in the summit earlier, we spoke about getting on stages. So it all comes full circle. It is a trifecta.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, when it comes to, let's say that someone is watching at home and thinking, okay, I really want to become an author. I'd love to write a book, but I feel overwhelmed. What is the first step that they should take?
So the way I work with people is we begin with the end in mind and then work backwards to the book. So I usually, the first step is to really sit down and think, who is my target audience? Like, who's my ideal client? What problem do I solve? And just get crystal clear on who it is you help, or what is the goal of the book? What group am I trying to help? What problem I solve for them? And then, kind of what am I leading them to? Like, what's the end goal? So if you have a coaching program or you have a SaaS software like ClickFunnels or one of those, what is the end goal? Then by getting really crystal clear on that, we can work backwards and kind of design, a customer life cycle that begins with the book. It gets easier to figure out what the book should be about and how that should be structured, because that has to be the beginning, way to capture the interest of the ideal client. So, the mistake I see people make all the time is they'll just write a random book. They'll sit down and like, I want to write a book. I have this expertise. And then they just kind of put it together without, thinking about, what am I trying to accomplish with this book? And where do I ultimately want to lead people? And who are the people that I'm really trying to attract?
Yes. Oh my gosh. Okay. So many good nuggets here in terms of reverse engineering and
Yes.
not necessarily, well, surely there are people that think, oh, I just want to write a book to write a book. But no, let's be strategic. You're really calling for those people who have an element of ambition and want to write a book, but also make it work for them in a relatively passive way of lead generating. Can you tell me more about passively generating leads for business through a book?
Yeah. So yeah, and just to be clear for people, like I help people with very specific types of books, and I call them lead gen books, and they're much shorter than a traditional book, and that's why it's a very strategically designed book, is because I'm trying to generate leads of my ideal clients and lead them through a strategically designed process to my programs and services or products that will help my ideal client. So with that, I think that passively, a lot of my clients use this on a website as kind of their main lead magnet, and so that can be, either some of them have just Facebook ads running using the book as the lead magnet, or again, they're speaking and on podcasts. And as you know, once you record a podcast, that becomes evergreen, and people can listen to that podcast months or years later. And if there's a call to action in your interview, then people can be streaming to that, download that lead magnet for months or years after you've done that interview. So, that's the way I use a book as a passive lead generation tool. Is it just is kind of the very front end to everything my clients then do, whether it's on a podcast or a speaking event or a virtual speaking event like this. It always leads to that same, the download of the book.
Yes. Oh, so the download of the book, this is actually a great point. So when it comes to, of course, there are audiobooks, paperback, ebook, can you tell me which medium is ideal for generating leads and why?
Yeah, so it really depends. So we always do, we do the physical hard copy version. And again, these are much shorter with a call to action, but we do the physical version. So if you're out speaking live and you want to hand, these are great lead magnets to hand out in person. And we do the electronic version. So you can also have it on your website as a call to action from something like this or a podcast. So I think, like in my experience, the best is a live talk, right? To be able to physically hand someone this book with this is a client of mine and she did an amazing job on this. And, it's always got the call to action to her lead magnet. The method that I've seen work the best is to be out speaking to a live group, because they can really experience you live, and then have the book. What we always do is create a contact card with the book, so that when you're speaking in a live event, you can put these contact cards on the table or on everybody's chair before you speak, or you can give them out, after. But there is no better lead collection tool than a paper card. It beats, like, literally, we've done studies of all the different methods, and some speakers will put their website up there, or they'll have you text a code to this number. But with a paper contact card, you get upwards of 80 to 90% of the audience consistently filling that out in exchange for a free copy of your book.
So for those that don't know, what is a contact card?
What is it? Gosh, I wish I had one. Usually have one right here, but it's a little, it's not much bigger than this. So, it's a small card, usually double-sided, and on the one side it's just a picture of your book and say, hey, get a free copy of my book. And on the back, it's some really basic information like you would have on a opt-in form, name, email address. And then sometimes we'll put some qualifying questions. It depends on the client and what you want to do. But it's really an easy place to kind of ask some basic questions. And then from that information, you can kind of sort who's a really hot lead, who's a kind of ideal client and so forth. So, but with the contact cards, the key is to just keep it as simple as possible.
Yeah. So, okay. So it sounds like I love this call for in real life, so how would you go about creating one of these cards?
Mhm.
Is it similar to a business card, except for the emphasis is on the book? Is there a QR code?
Yeah. So, it's no, well, so the contact cards that I create, I wish I had one, but they're they're very simple because you're using them while you're there, right? It's not something somebody has to pick up while you're not there. You're actually giving the call to action in your talk. So, at some point you'll say, listen, if you've enjoyed my talk, fill out the contact card on the table or, that was on your chair and hand it to me, in the back of the room, and I'll give you a free copy of my book. I'll send you the slides from today's presentation, and so you can make it really appealing for people to fill out that card, but you're doing it right there in person. So it doesn't have to have a lot of salesy stuff on it because you're going to be doing the pitch live.
Okay, awesome. And
Mm-hmm.
also thinking about, so some authors, for example, will give away the preface or the first chapter. What are your thoughts on, in terms of lead magnets? This is outside of the book. So there's certainly, we'll get into that later about the lead magnet that exists inside the book, but getting people to this book virtually.
Going back to your opening question about thought leadership, I think the more you can give people, the better. And, I don't view holding stuff back as a good strategy because this information is out there. If people want to learn how to, write a book, there's a lot of books out there about writing a book, and there's, other people that do it. So I think it's more about positioning yourself as kind of a thought leader and an expert in your space. And the more you can do that, the better, because, I wrote this book and I give the whole book away. And if you read this book, you could do this yourself. I mean, I advise my clients to not hold back and give them the whole thing, because I believe that positions you better as an authority. And then, naturally, there's going to be some percentage of people that are DIYs, they want to do it themselves. And then there are going to be other people that read that and go, wow, I love this person's philosophy. They have a great framework and a process. I need to contact them and work with them. And so, there's always going to be a percentage of those people. And so the DIYs can, I'm glad I'm adding value to them and they can do it themselves. And then I also know that percentage of people are going to follow up and want to learn more and, potentially work with me as a client. So that's my view on it. And I think, you just give them everything you've got.
Yeah. So Kurt, I'm hearing this abundance mindset. We haven't really gotten into mindset, but really coming from a place of, well, and another misconception is that writing a book is necessarily a moneymaker. I mean, it's a moneymaker, but indirectly, right? So I love
in my model, it is. Yeah. I don't follow the selling your, there's some speakers that'll try to sell their books at the event or in the back of the room. And I'm just like, that's not my model. I think, I don't view the book as the money-making tool. It's the lead in, like you said, to a funnel that filters out and part of the book is, the book is attracting my ideal client as much as repelling my non-ideal clients. And so, if they're going to want to do it themselves, they've got all the information right here they can do and follow it. And, and then the ones that want to work with someone, and, there's always, like, people will pay for speed and expertise, right? So I can help them do it faster, and I've got templates and tools, and, I'm very, very good at helping people structure things and figuring out frameworks. And so there's a lot of value there, so if there's people that want to pay for your value, whatever it is that you do in your coaching or your business, that will take your information and say, yeah, got it. You know what I mean? So when, if you think about yourself, you read a complete solution to something, you're like, yeah, that's awesome. I love that. I want that.
Yeah, I hear you. It's about what I'm hearing you say is that it's about establishing that sense of authority and trust,
Mhm.
where the people that are meant to work with you will be really intrigued. They'll read that book and they'll be that much more likely to want to reach out and follow up. And then there could be some people that read it and maybe they don't even get to reading because they're like, maybe I'm not the right person. So there's a self-selection process.
Exactly. Right. And then so you're kind of filtering out the tire kickers or the people that DIY, which is great. I'm glad I'm adding value. But if when it comes to spending your time on, strategy calls and kind of down the funnel, you want to work with people that are serious about investing in themselves and investing in your program and are looking for someone to help them do it, not do it themselves. And so that, kind of filters that out to some degree.
Right. Yeah. It's such a shift in business, right? The entrepreneur that goes from self-proclaimed scrappy entrepreneur, I made my website myself, I did everything myself, or maybe some things are okay, maybe they're not an expert in all of the things they're
Mhm.
doing. And then empowerment is delegation. So
Absolutely.
understanding where your strengths are and strengthening those and allowing the other things to be delegated. And I
Absolutely.
wanted to ask you about, when it comes to establishing thought leadership in the form of a book, how can someone differentiate themselves? Let's say that if it's a general career coach, general life coach, or beyond the coaching industry, what are ways that you have even worked with a past client where they were
Mhm.
a little bit confused and how they gained more clarity?
Yeah, that's really good question. I think to me, it's having your own process or framework.
Mhm.
And even like, so I've worked with a bunch of clients who are like, oh, but I do the same thing, to your point about it being a general life coach or a general, like I do the same thing as everybody else. I'm not any different. So what it's like, yeah, but you can create your own process, even if it's the same steps and name it and create something creative for yourself. And then it becomes, now you start becoming an authority and an expert because, if you think about someone like Stephen Covey and the 7 Habits, those weren't new habits. I mean, there's a lot of people that
Mhm.
begin with the end in mind, right? I mean, a lot of people begin and design backwards. And, if you think about his 7 things, they weren't unique, but he created a framework and he made a lot of money and helped a lot of people because he created his own process and his own framework around the same things other people were doing, and so it's the same thing. I, had a client and she is a medium and she helps
Mhm.
people. She's a life coach but she's got her unique spin to it. And for a long time, she was afraid of talking to people about that because some people are like put off by it and like medium, I don't believe in that. And, so she was afraid and she was trying to come up with her process in her book. And she's like, should I talk about it? Should I not talk about it? I'm like, you should absolutely talk about it because you want to attract the people that already believe what you believe and are interested in learning more from you and invest in you. And at the same time, you you want to repel the people that are going to waste your time and their time coming down and don't believe in your methodology and process. And so, I think it really, to answer your question, you can find a unique spin regardless of what you do. Be authentic because there's, I mean, I could say the same thing as 10 other people, and they're going to be people that resonate with me more than the other 10 people that said almost the same thing. And, other book coaches and so forth. So just be authentic and attract the people that you want to work with. And yeah, find that little unique angle. There's always a little unique angle, even in a big, coaching space that you can hit. So you don't have to write a book about, everything within this. Like pick one little aspect of what you do that can help people that's really interesting and unique, and write about that because the book is just the hook. We're just trying to hook our ideal clients, and we don't have to write a book that teaches them everything. That's like I always talk to my clients, like, we're not writing everything, about everything on this topic and more. Like this book is just meant to be a hook. And actually, ironically, the shorter the better, because people don't want to sit down and read a whole book. And what often happens is, like, I've got tons of books that I bought I read the first chapter or two and I was like, okay, I got to put this down and do something else. And I just never got back to finishing that book. And so, it's finding that little hook that will grab the attention of your ideal client long enough to get them interested to kind of learn what you do in your framework and how you help, so that they say, I want to go to the next step and learn more. That's, find that little hook.
Yes. Okay. This is awesome. So what I'm hearing is that there's this emphasis on, let's not be a generalist. Find that hook, find that special something that you would like to stand for, even if it seems a little edgy, a little bit controversial, where, wait, not everyone's going to like it. You just go forward with it anyway. And, you did touch on the shorter, the better. What length range is ideal in terms of words? I know we could say pages, but sometimes pages can vary. So yeah, what is that ideal range?
So ideally, I think, let's see. So Kyle's book is 57. That's one of the longer ones. Mine's 57, 58. This is one of the longer ones. We have The Way of the Warrior, 41 pages, 42 pages. So I say 40 to 50, 60 at the most pages is ideal. And, these are smaller. If you look at this is a 5.5 by 9 book size, 5.5 by 8.5. And so, that equates to roughly 8 to 10,000 words.
So that's a lot more, yeah.
Including, like case studies. And so the way I design these books is very story-based, stories, case studies, a little bit overview of your framework, but we're not doing like in-depth teaching here. This is enough to give people an idea of how you help, and you have a framework and a process to do it. You've helped other people through the case studies they can see, and then getting them interested enough to take the next step, whatever that is. And usually these have a call to action to download your lead magnet and then book a call. That's
is
kind
it
of the
woven throughout the book, or do you say the call to action for the end?
The call to action is kind of the end, but remember, these books are really short. I mean, the way I design these, the last page on the back side of the cover is always the call to action, as well as we put it on the back cover. It's like, boom, you know what I mean? I want people to see it. But the way I do it is the last chapter. This again isn't a typical book. The last chapter isn't conclusion. It's always what to do next. And so, I've kind of guided them through my framework and showed them how I help people. And then I say what to do next for those that are interested, right? They're going to want to be like, okay, wow, this is cool. What do I do? How do I get started? Or how do I learn more? And so the call to action is always kind of the last chapter. And then it's in several places throughout the book.
Yeah. Okay. So Kurt, so many light bulbs are going off for me right now. It's basically, it's kind of like when it comes to, let's say there's a cake recipe. You could go ahead and put all of the ingredients together, but when a professional, person that owns a bakery does it, it's going to be different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Or, I mean, you could be a pretty good cook, and pretty good cooks go to cooking school because they want to learn more, right? Or there's those little tiny touches that can go into a recipe that like, oh, this recipe is like 10 times better just by adding that little thing or this little thing, or somebody looking over your shoulder and say, maybe you should just do it this way. So yeah, I mean, you can definitely do it yourself. And I mean, for a lot of people, that's great. And then, just sometimes you want a coach to help you, whether it's writing a book or, creating a business or whatever, whatever it is. I mean, people are always going to want a coach to maybe fine tune something or get that little bit more. I always like the examples, always like Michael Jordan always had a coach, right? I mean, Michael Jordan and all these superstar athletes, Tiger Woods, they all have coaches, because as good as they are, another set of eyes on it can see something different, or can see a unique angle, or can see, see something that you might not see, or have some experience because they work across a lot of different clients.
Yeah. Okay. So this is awesome. I'm curious, when it comes to a special process that you walk your clients through? Of course, without giving away all of your secret sauce, is there anything that you can share with those that are watching today?
Yeah, and like again, I don't mind sharing the secret sauce because like I believe if you want to do this yourself, go for it,
Sauce for
but
everyone.
there will always be people that want to have me help them. But I think in terms of the format of the book, like I always make it again very short, but also I want it to flow, right? I want it to flow so that people are going, yeah, oh, I get it, and then you could almost flip through it. And because the way I describe it is I want somebody to be able to read this on an airplane and be done, and then want to like be hungry for the next step, because those are going to be the right people. And so I always start out with a story, and it's usually like, if it's your personal story, that's best. Like why did you get into this, and
Yeah.
what were your journey from learning this thing, and now you help people with it? Or if it's a client story, that's good too. But I always like it to be story based, because that's kind of the hook. And then there's like the next section is I'm going to now position against the other option or the old way, whatever it is. So, and then that sets up a few chapters about my solution, so I have one that talks about my overall framework, a couple of details on each step of the framework, which I recommend be very short, like 3 to 4, maybe 5 steps at most in your framework. And then the what's next section, that's it. And so that flows really well, because if you look at my book, for example, it's like I open with a story about how before I didn't really have the hook, and I was before, it was kind of my before and after story of and then I met this guy. He's like, you should write a book. I have wrote a book, I'm crushing it. And so that's kind of the opening hook for people who are like, yeah, that's what I want to do. And then I have a section on why books. So I'm positioning against some of the other things, but why having a book is so important to a thought leader and an expert. And then I say, oh, I've got a 3-step framework. You've got to have a book, you have to have a funnel, and you have to have a traffic, way to drive traffic into the funnel. And so I talk about those little 3 pieces of having a comprehensive lead gen solution using a book. And then offer, like I built a little planning tool, and that's my call to action, is like, hey, download. I put some training together exactly how to do this process. I built a step-by-step tool that you can walk through to figure out what you should write your book about. And yeah, so that's the process. I mean, there's the 3 steps, and I have a very kind of structured format to help people think through this book. And then, like I mentioned before, we reverse engineer the whole thing to figure out what their book should be about. I don't know. That was a long answer.
That answered the question. Thank you. Oh my gosh, everyone take your notes.
Yeah.
So, I'm wondering, what is your secret weapon for success?
Secret weapon. Keep it simple.
Keep it simple.
Really, because I've been doing this a long time, and I've gone to lots of marketing conferences and learning about all these different things, webinars and this and that. And, it's really, really easy to get overwhelmed, because you're like, oh my God. And you compare yourself to these guys that have been doing it, guys and girls that have been doing it 20 years or 10 years, even 5 years. And you're like, oh my gosh, they've got a webinar, and they've got a podcast, and they've got, this huge website. And you don't need all that. You can start off and keep it simple. And just like, if you look at the 3 elements, my thing, just one traffic source, one lead magnet, one simple funnel.
So good. Okay. So for those that are like, wait, I want to like have fun, keep it simple, how can people find you and connect with you online?
Yeah. So I have a website called Booked Business. That's probably the easiest way. And I can give you the link and everything.
Oh yeah, we'll have that in the show notes for sure.
Yeah. And it'll have a link to the, if you want to watch this whole process in action, I'll give you the link that kind of opts you in. And it'll take you through the whole funnel. And that way people can kind of watch the process in action.
Yeah. Okay. So it sounds like that's a special free gift.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. Okay.
Absolutely.
So can you repeat it once more?
So the actual link
Just
is
the URL. bookedbusiness.com.
gift.
All right. To be walked through this process.
Yep.
So prime. So Kurt Black, thank you for being here today. And
thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you everyone for being here and watching. This is actually the last part in our series. Part 1, how to start your coaching business. Part 2, how to get on stages. Part 3, how to write your book with Kurt Black. Thank you so much. And yeah, we'll see you next time.
I appreciate it. Have a great day.
Thanks, you too.
Bye.